Spiritual living helps me build it, claiming divine ideas in prayer, engaging the power of my imagination to envision my success, and using my wisdom and will to discern the best way forward, and choose it all to help me be resilient in the face of defeat or discouragement. Through the power of the Christ within, I am willing to keep trying until I succeed. I understand setbacks happen to everyone. I do not let them deter me or take a failed effort personally. I am strong and capable of doing what I set my mind to. I am resilient. Keep alert. Stand firm in your faith. Be courageous. Be strong. That's from 1 Corinthians. Here are a few things we want to tell you about this week. Next Sunday's 11 a.m. service will feature Michael Panique. The theme for August is, Are We Willing? The power ability for August is will. The color is silver, and the representatives are the disciple Matthew and Sarah. Please join us for hospitality downstairs after the service. Hospitality this week is provided by Susan Mason, Linda Andrus, and Jan Teets. Please thank them when you see them. World Day of Prayer is coming up September 10th and 11th. The theme this year is Be Still and Know. Unity Headquarters will host an online World Day of Prayer event. Please contact Therese if you would like her to send you the link to participate in this free event. Our online book group meets Mondays at 12:30 p.m. They are reading Living Untethered, Beyond the Human Predicament by Michael Singer. Please talk to Judy Crenshaw or Nancy Leifer if you need the Zoom link. Our in-person Unity book group meets Tuesdays at 12:30. They are reading Understanding Your Soul, The Channeled Wisdom of Jesus by Christine Bush. A Course in Miracles study group will meet this Monday, 2 p.m. at the home of Tom and Linda Andrus. Please see Linda if you need directions. Thursday's time of silent prayer and meditation for world peace is at 7 p.m. Please join us for a 20-minute time of silent meditation as we visualize our world in blessed peace. Thanks so much to those of you who continue to support our Unity community through your tithes and love offerings. Your generous donations enable us to keep our building full of spiritual seekers and other community groups throughout the month. We appreciate you. The church's 10% tithe this week will go to the Unity World Headquarters, the organization housing Silent Unity, Unity Institute, and our publications. Please hold them in your heart as we affirm our offering blessing. I will affirm it once, then repeat it with me. I open my heart to love. All that I give and all that I receive is blessed and multiplied from a joyful heart of love. Together, one more time. I open my heart to love. All that I give and all that I receive is blessed and multiplied from a joyful heart of love. Would our usher board members please come forward to pass the offering baskets? I wear a few hats around here too. I couldn't figure out what you were saying. Thank you, Evie and Deb. Before we move on to the talk for this week, I will affirm Unity's primary affirmation and ask you to join me for 2 more times. There is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Together, there is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. And again, and there's only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. In addition, here is our Missoula Unity affirmation. I will affirm it once and ask you to join me again. We are Unity of Missoula. We are a radiating center of divine love, open and accessible to all. We are God's light, peace, and joy wherever we are. Together, we are Unity of Missoula. We are a radiating center of divine love, open and accessible to all. We are God's light, peace, and joy wherever we are. Unity of Missoula maintains a circle of people who have made a commitment to pray every day for others at their request. If you have names of people to hold in prayer for a month, you may place their names in the prayer box located on the altar, or call the church and leave a message with those names. Their names will be sent out to our prayer circle and to Silent Unity for 30 days of prayer. Please join me in prayer for a moment as we hold all of them in our hearts. You may also now say aloud or silently the names of those you wish to bring into this time of prayer. Dear God, we hold these friends and loved ones in our hearts. We behold their light as expressions of the indwelling Christ. We release them to your care and affirm divine order in their lives and ours. Thank you, God. Amen. And here is Therese Panique to lead us in singing, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." And the words are on the wall.
Ready. Oh, yes. If everyone would please stand. Yes. We'll do it twice. Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be, and where we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight. by turning, turning, we come down right. Gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be a delight till by turning, turning we come round right. Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you, Therese. That was pretty awesome. Today's speaker is Val-Ann Valdison. I don't think she needs a whole lot of introducing. Most of us know who she is. She wears quite a few hats here. She is a Reiki master, and she's currently president of our board. She serves as stewardship coordinator of what I'm doing today, and lots of other things that we don't see. But when I first came here over 10 years ago, she was one of the smiley people that greeted me. And I've never forgotten that. That's one of the wonderful things about Unity, is that we have learned how to embrace each other with our joy and smiles, and she certainly has that. So please welcome Val-Ann.
I got to have a chair, folks, so.
I'm going to put this in your pocket. And clip you on here. Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm on the screen here.
Hello?
Just not on yet.
Okay. Hi. Well, there's some smiling faces out there. That's really nice to see. I need the chair. I had knee surgery a while back, and then I fell and had to recover again from that. And so it's been a while since I've been up here. That's probably okay too. I was up here way too much as the president of the board and having to give announcements. They weren't quite as fun as speaking. And there wasn't any really good jokes I could tell with talking about the budget. You know, there aren't many math jokes. I finally did find one math joke, but it's really dumb. Can I tell it anyway? Of course. You know, why don't horses ever get fat? Because they take 4 times as many steps. Duh. Anyway, let's see if I can actually make some sense out of what the official theme is for this month. That's not one of my best things. Are we willing? To me, that's kind of what that becomes for me is, are we willing to be who we become and who we are best at? Are we willing to become the best we are? Are we willing to become who we're meant to be? Are we willing to become who we're capable of being? What does it take to do that? You know, what do we follow to do that? I have some ideas about that, but you know, we'll come. But because I haven't been here for a while, I want to talk about a few of my favorite things, and one of my favorite things is Michael. So thank you. Wasn't that awesome, as it always does? He's up there actually figuring out our equipment for next time, or when we get it together. So that's really powerful. I also want to thank the people who make lunch every week. They're really awesome. And I want to give a tiny shout out to a couple of people here who stand on the bridge wearing black every Friday at lunch, you know? The ladies in black. I'm a lady in black today. I think we have very good reason to really think about that again in our world. Ever since the 60s, we've did a lot of things as old hippies to make changes in our world, and seems like we have to do it again, right? Anyway, not to get into too much politics, but at least a few thoughts about that. So I wanted to share a couple of my favorite things right now. So I kind of collect them as I go along. One of my favorite things right now is this book. It's a Tuesday book group. It's awesome. It's just awesome. You see people nodding their head. Understanding Your Soul, the Channeled Wisdom of Jesus. It's a book about channeled wisdom, right? Well, there's been a lot of channeling for a lot of years. If you go downstairs to the library, you could probably find at least a dozen books that are all channeled, have been for years. But this is the first one published by Unity. Linda confirmed that, right? Authorized by Unity, right? And it's just awesome. It's so dense we only do one chapter a week, and we can barely get through that. So, and I love it so much that if it's okay, I'd like to start another book group in the fall reading this book again, and maybe some of the others of you will join me then, because it's just awesome. Okay? Some of the other things that are kind of current to me right now that's really cool. I have to tell you about my favorite TV show at the moment. You know, summer television is not too great, right? So you got to find what's good. Last year, Matlock was just wonderful, right? If anybody has heard that, that was just the most wonderful series. Kathy Bates, with the main character being 70 years old. Yes. But there's a cool one this year on PBS called The Good Karma Hospital. A couple people have seen that. You have to kind of have some sense of being okay with India, but it tells you all these wonderful things about this little country hospital in India, and you have all the locals, and you have the doctors, and you have the different things that go on, and you have all the tourists that come through, right? So there's Europeans and Americans and Indians and all the things that happen to them. And it's this wonderful kind of light little comment about how people see things differently, right? And a good example of how people understand karma also. For example, there's something that happens to a European person and he looks around and tries to find exactly who to blame for it. The same thing happens to an Indian person there that's a Hindu, and he says, my karma, how do I understand this? Different ways, the way they look at things. And there's a kind of things happen in cycles there. All of a sudden at the hospital, there was this whole bunch of women that are all pregnant at the same time, right? Like 57 women in this little village, all pregnant at the same time. So they were thinking, oh my God, they counted back 9 months and they said, oh yeah, that was that festival that lasted for a whole week. It was such a good festival. Everybody really had a good time at that particular festival. But all of a sudden, a whole new batch of babies all at the same time. Little weird things like that that are quite charming. One more example, there's a woman walking around, a young woman who was just lovely, and she'd walk around and talk to people, and everybody was just loved her. They just thought she was so wonderful. And it was almost like she touched them and she could heal them, you know? They got better just talking to her. And they asked her who she was, and she said, well, I'm the goddess Lakshmi in human form. Okay. The doctors were a little skeptical of that, you know, okay. But, and of course some of the tourists were. They didn't want to think that was right. But no matter what she did, everybody kind of got better being around her. And eventually they found her family, and their family explained that she had a brain tumor on her pituitary. A little pituitary gland up there. She had a little brain tumor on it. And one of the symptoms of that is delusional thinking. So of course some of the people thought, oh, well, she's just delusional, right? She's just delusional. But even some of the other doctors could offer the explanation, well, you know, in our Hindu system and in some other systems in the world, pituitary is where God lives in the body. It's our connection with spirituality. And it's like they could give this woman credit literally for being in touch with God. Interesting. Just some examples of this little show that really shows different ways of understanding. We all have so many ways of understanding things in the world, and India is like that. When I was in India, I felt like Alice in Wonderland. I mean, it was just totally turned my brain around to the other side. Talk about the difference between linear thinking and nonlinear thinking. It's a really good, interesting way to see that and understand it. I really liked it when Jeff talked about luminosity, transition periods that cultures go through and people go through, because I've been in one pretty clearly for myself. And I think our country's pretty much in a luminosity period, I think. We'll see how it all works out eventually. Because there's a lot of stuff going on. A comment I noticed about current events, apparently the IRS finally made another unusual ruling that churches can now endorse candidates and not lose tax-exempt status. I don't know if it's been tested yet, but there's a lot of stuff like that going on. But you know what I remember way back when I was a teacher full-time and I studied test scores, you know, students' test scores, all the things that we had to learn about, were our students doing better than the Japanese students in science and math and things like that. I remember a report that came out in about 2010. The lowest score on anything of American students was in civics. Do you remember civics? I remember civics in junior high school, but not since, right? They took out civics probably to make room for science and technology, which seemed a good idea at the time. But you know, American students haven't studied civics in school for about 10 or 15 years. I don't know. To me, that's really significant. I remember a few people at the time who were trying to make civics projects and trying to get civics put back in school, which was something I was supporting at the time. You know, they said, we got to teach kids how to run the country, or else someone else will. Enough said. But who do I find to give me something to kind of follow? And I'm talking in secular terms right now. I mean, some days we talk in real spiritual terms. But who do we see in our movies and television, and who are the people, and the heroes that we look to, that we see all the time, and that our kids watch, okay? You know, who did my kids watch as heroes as young? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Is that a real hero? Well, you know, they were pretty good, but, you know, they're turtles, right? No, and they got that way because of some chemical accident, you know, not exactly a path that you can actually follow. And then a couple of years later, who did my daughter have to watch? Nobody, because there weren't any very well-defined women superheroes at the time. Duh. There are a few now. There are more now, which is good. And I'm talking your kind of classic superheroes, right? Because I enjoy those. But I really like science fiction, talking about nonlinear reality, right? Science fiction tells us lots of great stories. It tells us lots about possibilities. It tells us lots about ways people function. It tells us about things that might happen that really go wrong, and some things that might happen that really go right. So that's a really favorite thing of me. So it's okay, if it's okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite science fiction. We'll see. I hope you know some of the characters. They're pretty classic characters. Way back when I was in San Diego years ago, I saw a young comedian in a concert who just did these wonderful, wonderful examples of all sorts of kinds of people. Everybody from hardcore people and loving people and people in challenges, and just explored so much about non-traditional people. And this woman, it was like, when I thought about it, I said, God, I hope this woman becomes famous, because she really has something to offer the world. Well, she did. And she became actually my absolute favorite superhero in science fiction. Anybody remember Guinan in Star Trek? Whoopi Goldberg. She's still on television, right, in The View, right? This woman has portrayed lots of different things, and I think really offered a lot of visions of alternative things to the world. But Guinan in science fiction and Star Trek, any Trekkies out there? You know, okay, there's a few Trekkies, right? Any Bajorans out there? Romulans? Vulcans? Okay, oh, there's one, okay. All right, I knew there was somebody out there that was out there. So, you know, Guinan is like my hero. She's like over 200 years old, and she has this incredible perspective. And even Picard listens to her no matter what. So, you know, now you know who my hero is, right? There's a few of them. But what are the possible things that this kind of stuff can tell us, right? What are about these alternative possible futures? We have a lot of possible information about what might happen because of science fiction. Lots of people say it. There's some stories of really negative futures, right? Terminator, robots, all these kind of things. In the history of Dune, new Dune movies are wonderful recently, if anybody Dune folks out there? All right. In the history of Dune, they had a huge war against the thinking machines. That's way back in the history of it. They had to have a whole interplanetary war because the thinking machines had started to take over society, right? Well, what's a thinking machine? We have a word for that now, in case that's not obvious. AI. That's a pretty powerful admonition to think about what we do with some of our technology. I think that's one of the best things that science fiction gives us. What happens if we do this, and what happens if we follow this path? They had to have all the thinking machines outlawed completely. And that was before the main Dune character of Paul Mordeeb. So where do we look for positive role models? Well, let's start with Dune. Paul Mordeeb. See a great role model? Dune, we got 1, 2, and we're going to have 3 pretty soon. But it's a little bit in the future, right? The year 10,191. That's a while yet. That's another 8,000 years or so. But the thing that strikes me about Dune is they're still warring. They're all interplanetary wars, but all they're doing is warring for power, money. But Paul is still a fascinating character, right? He transmits poison in order to become wise, in order to have sight and premonitions and I guess psychic ability that's very profound. But can we follow that? Can we have that same path of learning? Well, the Bene Gesserit do it too. If I was in that world, I would be a Bene Gesserit, at least possible. That's the one place women had lots of power. Some of you who don't know Dune, those were the wise women, right? And they're very powerful in how they influence society. And they learn all the mystical arts. But can we follow Paul? Well, we don't have 1,000 years of specialized breeding, right? He's there because of who he's born to. He was planned to become the one. So, we don't have that backstory. What are some of the other people that are superheroes? Are there ones that we could follow? There's several men, and now there's a few women, right, that are superheroes. And actually, most recently, there's actually a few superheroes that aren't white men. Right? Okay. I mean, what? Superman, can we follow him? No, he's from another planet. Aquaman, he's great, but he's also royalty, right, from the seas, and he can swim underwater. We can't exactly do those things. Thor, he's a great superhero, right? But he comes from another realm, Asgard. He's also a royalty by birth. We don't have all those things. But then there's Wonder Woman, right? She's been more active lately, and she's good. But she's also basically a goddess, right? She comes from Themyscira. We don't have that background and had really good training in being a superhero, right? She learned how to fight. And then the ones that aren't white men, the Black Panther, like the Black Panther, he's cool. But of course, he's also royalty, and he has this beautiful magic purple herb that gives him the power of the Black Panther, right? So, and then one more, Shang-Chi. Do you like Shang-Chi? It's nice to have a Chinese superhero, right? But he also has this powerful technology from his father, the 10 rings. Anyway, those are all details, but it's like all these superheroes have stuff we don't have. So they still do good stuff. They help people, but they're not quite. So I still keep looking for a superhero that I can relate to, right? I like Paul Mordeeb. He's cool. He goes through a transformational process. But he's also the one, he's picked out to be the one. Remember Anakin Skywalker? Star Wars too. But he's picked out to be the one too. He was destined to do this. I don't know what I'm destined to do. Maybe I'll try and figure it out, but I'm trying to become it. But even Skywalker, right? He didn't have a human father. He was born by midichlorians. Where have we heard that story about no human father before? That's come down in history a lot of times. So again, they're not quite what we can relate to. The thing that bothers me about a lot of them is that they're all messianic. A lot of them are messiahs. We're being saved by someone else. I think it's time for our society to not be messianic. We have to be the ones who save ourselves. So if I look back at some of the, one more comment about some of the heroes that are kind of close. Batman's pretty good. He's a real human, but of course he has awesome wealth and great technology. And Iron Man, the same thing. He's brilliant, but of course he has awesome unlimited wealth and technology. My favorite other is Dr. Strange. He studied the mystic arts, right? So I love superheroes, obviously. I like the ones who really get into mysticism. But what are the ones that can actually follow? There's still one other group of what I consider heroes that are heroes to me, and that's Star Trek, right? What's the vision of Star Trek? Gene Roddenberry, I think, was an incredible mystic and brilliant man. He really set forth a vision of the possible future of real humans, right? Real humans that become intelligent enough to pull the planet together. They pull the planet together by the time of Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation. The planet Earth has no poverty, no pollution. It's all together. They have a world government that functions and is part of the planetary federation that they have joined of the universe. What did it take for them to do that? You remember when that happens in the Star Trek universe? Any Trekkies? In 2063 is when the Vulcans landed. First contact day, April 5th, 2063. So what did they do between now and 2063 that got them to be a planet? Right? I think that's a really cool question. What did it take for Earth to become a planet together? Well, in the backstory, they did have a Third World War. In 2063, they were still recovering from a world war. But Ephraim Cochrane had built a rocket ship that flew up into the sky and achieved warp drive. And the Vulcans saw it from afar and they said, okay, it looks like Earth is ready to move on. Let's land and make contact and see if they are ready to join the Earth Federation. Well, to me, that's a really powerful model of what could be happening. I totally believe there's all these other beings and other planets out there. Maybe other people don't, but the part of it that's a really important question is, to me, is what would it take for us to get our Earth together to be Earth? Not just independent countries still fighting each other, right? We're still dealing with that now, no matter what. Can we make that possibility? If we take his version of it, that's only 38 years from now. Maybe not the time that I'm going to live long enough to see. I don't know. What am I going to get to live to see? Am I going to get to see the Earth come together as a planet? I've been believing in that ever since back in college, when I remember reading the concept, and I have a t-shirt that says Spaceship Earth, right? With a picture of the Earth, the first time we had that picture of the Earth from space. I've been waiting for that ever since. That was what I hoped I would see. I wish I had the perspective of Guinan to go, well, let's see, what else does it take? What have other cultures managed to do? How have they managed to come together to be a planet? I think that's our job as earthlings? Maybe? You can take that as a spiritual thing, you could take that as a secular thing, you could take it as a political thing, an emotional thing, all of the above. What does it take for us to be one people? We have this concept of oneness all the time, but, how do we get there? But I really think about who's my hero. What kind of things do I follow? And if you're okay, I'd like to do a little meditation for just a few minutes to think about that. Is that okay? If you want to be kind of relaxed and calm, get comfortable in your chair just for a minute. And I just kind of have a couple questions for you to think about, if it's okay. A couple deep breaths. Can you ask yourself, what to you is a hero? Or who to you is a hero? When you were growing up, who were you told to look up to as heroes? Who were heroes to your family? Who was valued by your family as a hero? That was kind of the programming that you might have got as a hero. But what might be different now? Have you grown up with new heroes? Maybe more complex heroes? More spiritual heroes, more ethical heroes? Maybe even more inclusive heroes. It's kind of one of those things that's good to kind of update. Update our concept of a hero. Update what we learned from our family to who we are now. Who do you want it to be now? And one last question to think about for a minute. Is it possible for you to be your own true hero? Are you a hero? Are you the hero of your own life? Are you willing to be your own hero? And when that feels okay, maybe you have a different picture, or can think about that at least. Let yourself bring your consciousness back to your body here in this room with all these other heroes that we have. Let's be our own heroes. A couple comments that I heard on TV just on Friday, pretty interesting. Kamala Harris was on Stephen Colbert. I guess it was from a couple weeks ago, but Stephen Colbert read quotes from her campaigning time. And she made a list of predictions, like, if somebody else is elected, this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. Well, Stephen Colbert was very pointed and said, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this has happened. And he said, do you want to say I told you so? And she said, well, no, I don't think that very much helps, but it's nice to hear that. But the comment that she made, which struck me really deeply, she said, what I didn't predict about what's happening in the country is I didn't know there would be so much capitulation. Capitulation. I had to look that word up again to make sure I got it right. What's capitulation? Ceasing to resist an opponent or an unwelcome demand. Giving in, yield, surrender. Giving in. That's what she has seen that really troubled her. Now, whatever your position is, that really bothers me. Capitulation is not what heroes do. I don't want to see myself as being capitulating, but I have been sometimes. Interesting. My other hero made a comment in the show of The View on Friday. She said, you know, this situation is not something that's beyond us. We can make a difference, but the only way we make a difference is if we all stand up and make a difference. And she reminded us that we made a difference in Vietnam. We made a difference about civil rights. We've made a difference about women's movements. I don't know. I think our country's gotten a civics lesson. And so I say on kind of a general level, we need some more heroes in our country. And I say on just a personal level, I need to be my own hero. I need to be the one moderating my life, making it worthwhile, making my own choices, making my best choices. I invite you to join me. Let's be heroes together. Thank you.